You know that moment at a family holiday when the air shifts and you realize you're not just the black sheep, you're the invisible one? That was me, Claire, 28, sitting at Christmas dinner, watching my mom raise her glass and announce to the whole table, "Your sister just bought a beautiful house. When will you finally settle down?" The turkey was still steaming, the lights were twinkling, and I could feel every eye in the room turn toward me, waiting for the punchline. My sister Vanessa, always the star, didn't even try to hide her smirk. "Yeah, Claire, when are you going to grow up and get your life together?" she added, swirling her wine like she was the queen of the night. For years, I would have laughed it off, made a joke, let the moment pass. But this time, I just smiled, a real smile, the kind you wear when you know something nobody else in the room does. I looked at my mom and said, "I already did. I just didn't invite anyone who doubts me." The silence that followed was almost delicious. Forks froze, glasses hovered, and for the first time, I saw a flicker of confusion in my mom's eyes. If you think that comeback came out of nowhere, you're wrong. It was built on years of being the family's afterthought, the one who was always compared, always dismissed, always expected to clap for someone else's success. Stay with me, because I'm about to show you how the invisible daughter bought her own house in cash, turned Christmas dinner into a reckoning, and finally walked away from a family that never believed she was enough. But to understand how I got there, you have to go back to the beginning, to a quiet suburb outside Chicago, in a house where my mom, Linda, decided early on who the star of the family was going to be. Spoiler, it wasn't me. Vanessa, my older sister by 4 years, was the golden child from the start. She was the firstborn, the pretty one, the natural performer. If there was a room, Vanessa knew how to walk into it like it was a stage. My dad, Robert, was a structural engineer, always working late, always on a deadline. So most of the parenting fell to my mom, and she made it clear, Vanessa was the main character, and I was just the background. I remember the year Vanessa won a local dance competition. My mom threw a party that looked like something out of a movie, giant cake shaped like a trophy, balloons everywhere, relatives packed into every corner, snapping photos of Vanessa like she'd just won gold at the Olympics. My Aunt Donna kept saying how proud she was. My cousin Mia, her daughter, stood next to me and whispered, "This is a lot for a plastic trophy." But my mom was glowing. That same year, I won first place in a statewide writing contest. There was no party, no balloons, no cake. My mom glanced at the certificate while she was cooking and said, "That's nice, Claire, but look at what Vanessa is doing." She held up a photo of my sister in her sparkly costume, like that was the only achievement that mattered. Moments like that never stopped. When I was 10, we'd planned a family picnic I'd been excited about for weeks. The morning of, my mom walked into my room and said, "We have to cancel. Vanessa needs a new dress for prom, and the sale is today." I suggested we go after, or tomorrow. She shut it down. "Your sister's things are more important right now." Another time, I had a piano recital I'd practiced months for. I looked out into the audience, searching for my mom's face, but her seat was empty. Later, I found out she'd skipped it because Vanessa had a volleyball game. "Your sister needs me more," she said. "People are counting on her." It didn't matter what I did. It always came second. I was the quiet kid who loved books and notebooks, the one who sat in the corner during family parties while everyone circled around Vanessa, asking about her friends, her hobbies, her plans. After every gathering, when the noise finally died down, Mia would find me. She'd sit on the edge of my bed or next to me on the back porch and say, "She has no idea what she's missing out on with you." It helped, but it didn't change the fact that inside that house, I felt like a shadow. My mom was busy polishing Vanessa's spotlight while acting like I should be grateful just to stand nearby. Have you ever grown up realizing that in your own family, you're not the one they're rooting for? You're just the one they expect to stay quiet and clap for somebody else. By the time I hit my late teens, the favoritism wasn't just about trophies and attention anymore. It was about money and opportunity. When Vanessa finished high school, my mom sat her down at the kitchen table with a stack of pamphlets from a nearby community college. "We want you to stay close, sweetheart. Community college is perfect for you. It'll keep you stable and surrounded by people you know. What she really meant was, I want you close to me. Tuition, books, gas money, all of it was handled. Vanessa bounced between classes, parties, and whatever new friend group she latched onto that semester. My mom called it networking. When it was my turn, the tone completely changed. I told my parents I wanted to go to a state university and study digital marketing because I loved the mix of creativity and numbers. My mom barely looked up from her phone. That's expensive, Claire. Maybe you should think smaller, something more practical. My dad mumbled something about scholarships as he rushed out the door, already late for another site visit. And that was that. Nobody sat me down with pamphlets or promised to cover anything. So, I did what I'd always done. I figured it out myself. I went online, filled out scholarship forms until my eyes burned, and took a part-time job at a local coffee shop. I learned how to steam milk, smile at rude customers, and do homework during my 10-minute breaks. When my acceptance letter from the University of Illinois came with a financial aid package attached, my mom's only response was, well, if they're paying, then I guess you can go. Vanessa stayed in town, enrolled at the community college, and unsurprisingly spent more time in bars and at parties than in classes. Still, every time she passed a class, my mom made it sound like a miracle. When Vanessa finally finished her associate degree and landed a sales job at a clothing store in the city, my mom booked a big dinner at a nice Italian restaurant downtown. She invited extended family, ordered appetizers for the table, and made a toast about how proud she was of her firstborn. Mia and I clinked glasses of soda and shared a look. A few months later, I graduated from university with honors. I walked across the stage, heard my name, felt the weight of every late night and every double shift at the coffee shop. After the ceremony, while my friends were taking group photos with their families, I checked my phone. There was a short text from my mom. Congrats, honey. Your sister is swamped at work. You should call her and tell her all about it. No dinner, no toast, no family celebration. It stung, but it also clarified something for me. If I waited for my family to celebrate me, I was going to be waiting forever. After graduation, I moved into a small apartment in Chicago. The walls were thin, the windows were drafty, and the kitchen was barely big enough for one person, but it was mine. I landed an entry-level job at a small marketing agency, the kind of place where you do everything because there's no one else to do it. I managed social media, wrote ad copy, pulled reports, and stayed late watching tutorials about campaigns that actually worked. I lived on discounted groceries from big box stores, learned to cook basic meals from recipe apps, and tracked every dollar in a spreadsheet. My mom called often, but the conversations always circled back to Vanessa. Your sister just got a new bonus. Your sister might get a promotion. Your sister is thinking about moving to a nicer neighborhood. The few times I tried to share something about my life, she would say, that's good, but have you heard what Vanessa is doing? After a while, I stopped offering details. I let her assume I was just getting by, just barely keeping up, the way she always imagined me. I poured my energy into work instead. Because when your own family treats you like the backup plan, sometimes the only choice you have left is to become so solid on your own that no one's opinion can touch you. I just didn't know yet how far that determination would actually take me or how much it would matter on a Christmas night a few years down the line. The turning point came on a cold holiday night 3 years before that Christmas dinner, back when I still cared about what my mom thought of me. I had just finished my first really big project at the agency, a campaign for a mid-sized local brand that wanted to reach younger customers online. I had poured everything into it. Late nights, weekends, learning new tools, testing ideas. When the numbers came in and we saw sales jump by almost 30%, my boss actually clapped in the middle of the office. He pulled me into a tiny conference room and said, Claire, this is the kind of work that gets people promoted. I went home that week feeling like maybe, just maybe, I was finally building a life that mattered. So, when my mom insisted I come home for the holiday dinner, I said yes. Part of me wanted to show her I wasn't just barely surviving in the city. Maybe I was still hoping she would finally be proud of me. The house looked the same as always. Warm lights, the smell of food, my mom moving around the kitchen like a general. Vanessa arrived late, of course, swirling in with a new hairstyle, new boots, and a new story about her coworkers. She hugged my mom first, then gave me a quick side hug like I was a distant acquaintance, not her sister. We all sat around the table, plates piled high, conversation bouncing around. My Aunt Donna asked how work was going for me, and for once, my mom didn't cut in. I took a breath and started to share. I told them how the campaign I led had gone viral on social media, how the client had extended their contract, how the agency was talking about using my strategy as a template for future projects. My cousin Mia's eyes lit up. "That's huge," she said. "That's like real career stuff, not just a job." I laughed, a little shy but proud. I admitted I had gotten a bonus. Nothing crazy, but enough to make me feel like I was moving forward. For a few seconds, the table was actually quiet. Everyone listening. Then my mom tilted her head and smiled, but not at me. She turned to Vanessa and said, "Speaking of moving forward, did you all hear about Vanessa's new car? She just got an SUV, one of those nice ones, so she can drive to work more comfortably." The conversation snapped away from me like a rubber band. My uncle asked about the model. My aunt asked about the color. My mom bragged about the deal they had found. I watched the spotlight slide off me and land right back where it always did, on Vanessa. Mia shot me a look across the table, the kind that said, "I saw that. I'm sorry." Later that night, while we were cleaning up, my Aunt Donna found me in the hallway. "Your mom just wants you to be happy," she said in that careful tone people use when they know they're about to say something you won't like. "Maybe don't focus so much on work. Men want someone who can balance career and family. Vanessa is good at that. She's not intimidating. You don't want to make it hard for yourself later." I stood there holding a stack of plates, listening to that old script all over again. Work too hard and you're doing it wrong. Don't work hard enough and you're a disappointment. Either way, I was always the one who needed to adjust. On the drive back to my apartment that night, my mom rode with me. The heater in my car made a faint rattling sound and the city lights blurred past the windshield. She stared straight ahead and said, "You know, your sister is really getting her life together. New car, steady job, good man. You should think about settling down, too, Claire. You're not getting any younger." Something in me clicked into place then. A quiet, solid feeling. I realized I could chase her approval for the next 10 years and still end up in this exact conversation, still being compared to Vanessa like we were in some twisted competition I never signed up for. So, I stopped playing. I stopped giving my mom detailed updates about my life. At work, I doubled down. If no one at home was going to see me, I would make sure people out in the real world did. Over the next couple of years, I moved from junior roles into managing bigger accounts. I learned how to turn trends into strategy, how to pitch to clients, how to lead a team. Our agency landed a few national brands, and I found myself in meetings with people I used to only read about in trade articles. Eventually, my title changed to creative director on a few major campaigns, and my paycheck started reflecting the hours I had put in. I started investing too, slowly at first. I read about index funds and long-term growth, downloaded a couple of investing apps, and set up automatic transfers while other people my age were posting photos from expensive bars and weekend trips. I was putting money into accounts I didn't touch and living like I was still broke. Meanwhile, Vanessa bounced from one job to another, clothing store sales to assistant at a small office to some kind of event coordinator. Every time she changed roles, my mom framed it as brave and adventurous. "Your sister's not afraid to try new things," she would say, like that made up for the instability. The more my own life stabilized, the more I started to really see the cracks in Vanessa's perfect image. She always had new shoes, new gadgets, new hair, new trips. But somehow she was always calling my mom asking for a little help until next paycheck. My mom would sigh and complain about being tired, but the money always went out. I stayed quiet, watched, and did the math in my head. It didn't add up. Still, I kept my distance. I built my career, my savings, my life. I told myself it was none of my business how Vanessa and my mom handled their money. I only broke that rule the day my mom called to announce the big news. The one that would drag me right back into their spotlight, whether they liked it or not. She said Vanessa was finally buying a house, and the whole family was getting together to celebrate. My mom turned Vanessa's house news into a full-blown event before a single box had even been moved. A couple of weeks after that phone call, she texted the family group chat in all caps about a backyard cookout to celebrate Vanessa's mortgage approval, like my sister had just been handed the keys to the entire city. When I pulled up to my parents' place that Saturday, there were balloons shaped like little houses tied to the fence and a big cardboard cutout of a key propped up on the patio table. My mom had even ordered a cake with "Congratulations on your new home, Vanessa," written in looping frosting. Vanessa stood in the middle of it all, drink in hand, describing the place like it was a palace. 3 bedrooms, a finished basement, a cute little yard, only 20 minutes from the lake, perfect for future kids and hosting holidays. Every few minutes, my mom would chime in with, "We're just so proud. She works so hard. She deserves this." I hovered near the grill with my dad, flipping burgers while he muttered about interest rates under his breath. People drifted in and out of conversations. An aunt asked me if I was still in that little apartment in the city, the way someone might ask if you were still driving the same old beater car from high school. I said yes, and she smiled in that pitying way and said, "Well, at least you don't have a mortgage yet. Must be nice not having any big responsibilities." I bit down on a reply and took a sip of my watered-down soda instead. Later, when most of the family was outside taking pictures with the cake, I went into the kitchen to refill the ice bucket. That's when I heard my mom's voice, low but urgent, coming from the dining room. I paused by the doorway and listened. Vanessa was sitting at the table with a thick envelope in front of her, papers spread out like a messy fan. My mom sat across from her, glasses on, brow furrowed. "I just don't know how you're going to keep up with all of this," my mom said. "You have 3 credit cards almost maxed, a car payment, and now this mortgage." Vanessa sighed dramatically. "I know, Mom, but if I don't buy now, I'll never get in. Everyone my age is buying. I can't be the only one still renting. You know how that looks." My mom rubbed her temples. "How much are you short for the closing costs again?" Vanessa slid one of the papers across the table. "Around 10 grand, she said. Maybe a little more if they don't waive the fees. I was thinking maybe you could pull from your savings or the retirement account again. Just this once. Just until I get my promotion. Just this once," the same phrase I had heard her use about extensions on homework, rent, phone bills, parking tickets. Always just this once. My mom hesitated, then said, "I'll see what I can move around. Maybe I can put some of it on my card for now, just until you're settled." My stomach turned. I thought about the night I asked my mom for a few $100s to cover a security deposit on my first apartment, and she told me it was important I learn to stand on my own 2 feet. I thought about every extra shift I had taken. Every weekend I had skipped going out so I could build the savings she was so casually waiting for Vanessa. I stepped back before they saw me, heart pounding a little too fast. A few minutes later, I walked into the dining room like I had just arrived, and they both snapped on smiles like nothing had happened. My mom slipped the papers back into the envelope. Vanessa tucked it into her bag, and the performance moved back outside to the patio where the cake and cameras waited. That night, when I got back to my tiny apartment, I opened my laptop and really looked at my numbers. I pulled up my accounts, my investment apps, my savings. Years of working, saving, and quietly investing had added up to more than I had let myself acknowledge. While my mom had been pouring money into Vanessa's appearances, I had been pouring mine into my future. For the first time, the idea that I could actually buy a place didn't feel like a fantasy. It felt like math. Within a few weeks, I was meeting with a realtor on the edge of a small lake community outside the city, walking through a bungalow with big windows, a wide porch, and a view of the water that made my chest ache in the best way. 3 bedrooms, an open kitchen, a small office at the back that looked straight out onto the lake. No shared walls, no upstairs neighbors stomping around at midnight. The price made my palms sweat. But when I sat down with a financial advisor and we went through everything line by line, he said something that stuck with me. "You've done the work. You can afford this." You could even pay cash if you want to avoid the mortgage headache. So I did it. I emptied accounts I'd been growing for years, moved things around, and wired the money. No loans, no cosigners, no desperate phone calls to my mom. On the day I got the keys, I stood alone in the empty living room and listened to the silence. No traffic, no neighbors, just the faint sound of water against the shore and my own breath in my ears. It felt like stepping into a life nobody had seen coming, least of all my family. Mia was the only one I told at first. She drove out one weekend with a trunk full of plants and a toolbox, walked through the front door, and immediately started grinning. "Claire," she said, "this is insane. This is like proof you were never the loser in this story." We spent the weekend building furniture, unboxing dishes, and arguing over where to put the couch. We made runs to big box stores, loaded up carts with towels and lamps, and by Sunday afternoon, the house looked less like a listing and more like a home. At one point, Mia stood in the doorway of my new office and said, "Do they have any idea?" I shook my head. No, and for now, I like it that way. I didn't want my house turned into another stage for Vanessa or another talking point for my mom. I wanted one part of my life to be fully mine, untouched by their expectations. I honestly believed I could keep it that way. I thought I could let them keep their fantasy about who was winning and who was losing, and I could just exist quietly by the water. I didn't know yet that one Christmas dinner would drag everything out into the open, whether they were ready for it or not. Christmas at Vanessa's new house looked like a holiday commercial. The living room was draped in white lights. A huge tree glittered in the corner with matching ornaments. And there was a faint smell of cinnamon and sugar hanging in the air. She had Christmas music playing just loud enough to make everything feel festive. And my mom, Linda, moved around the kitchen like she owned the place, telling everyone how proud she was. I pulled up in my old hybrid, parked a few houses down, and sat there for a second staring at the front door. Part of me wanted to turn around, drive back to my quiet house by the lake, and spend the night with a frozen pizza and my cat. Instead, I took a breath, grabbed the bottle of wine I brought out of pure habit, and walked up the driveway. Vanessa opened the door in a red sweater dress and perfect makeup, the kind of polished look that photographs well. She hugged me lightly, glanced at my outfit, and said, "You look nice." Kind of simple, but nice. Classic Vanessa. Inside, relatives were already settled in. My Aunt Donna and my uncle were on the couch. Mia leaned in a corner, scrolling on her phone, shooting me a quick smile when she saw me. My mom emerged from the kitchen, wiping her hands on a towel, and kissed my cheek. "I'm so glad you could make it," she said, like I had been the one who begged for an invitation. Dinner was loud in the way big family dinners always are. The table was covered in food: turkey, mashed potatoes, green beans, stuffing, baskets of rolls, and a pumpkin pie cooling on the counter behind us. People passed plates, clinked glasses, and swapped stories. For a while, I let myself fade into the background, listening more than I talked, answering polite questions about work and the city with vague, non-committal answers. I was halfway through my second bite of turkey when it happened. My mom lifted her glass, tapped it gently with her fork, and the room quieted. "I just want to say how proud I am of my daughter," she said, smiling at Vanessa, buying this beautiful house, building a real future, being truly settled. This is what stability looks like. Then she turned her eyes to me, and I felt the shift before she opened her mouth. "Your sister bought a beautiful house, Claire," she said, voice just a little too loud. "When will you finally settle down?" A soft ripple ran around the table. A couple of awkward laughs, a few raised brows. Vanessa didn't waste a second. She tilted her head, smirked, and said, "Yeah, Claire, when are you going to stop acting like a college kid and get your life together? You can't live in that tiny apartment forever." For a moment, nobody said anything. Forks hovered over plates. Someone cleared their throat. I saw Mia's eyes flick to mine, wide, wary. It would have been so easy to do what I had always done, to laugh weakly, shrug it off, let the comment slide. But I was not the same girl who used to drive home crying after these dinners. I had a house key in my purse that said otherwise. So I swallowed my bite, set my fork down, and looked straight at my mom. "I'm actually already settled," I said, my voice even. I just didn't invite anyone who doubts me. My mom blinked, thrown for a second, then let out a little laugh like I had made a joke she didn't get. What are you talking about? She asked. Claire, don't be dramatic. You're renting. That's not the same thing. I held her gaze. I'm not renting, I said. I bought a house months ago. 3 bedrooms, an office, yard right on the lake, paid for it in cash. The silence that dropped over that table was almost physical. Someone's fork actually clinked against their plate. My aunt's eyes got big. My uncle stopped mid-sip. My mom's smile froze on her face, then slid off completely. Vanessa let out a short, disbelieving laugh. Okay, sure, she said. You bought a whole house in cash. Come on, Claire. No one likes a liar. Mia spoke up softly but firmly. She's not lying, she said. I've been there. It's real. It's beautiful. Everyone's head swiveled toward her, then back to me. My mom shook her head slowly. Why would you buy a house and not tell your family? Because every time I tried to show you my life, you changed the subject to hers, I said. You didn't want to hear about my degree, my job, my promotions. Why would you care about my house? This is ridiculous, my mom snapped. Your sister worked so hard for this place. You could at least be happy for her instead of trying to one-up her at her own dinner. I felt the anger rise. Not the wild kind that makes you yell, but the cold, steady kind that makes everything crystal clear. I looked at Vanessa. I am happy anyone can get a home, I said. What I'm not happy about is you pretending you did it all on your own while you drain mom's savings and load up credit cards like it's free money. Vanessa's face went sharp. Excuse me, she said. You don't know anything about my finances. Actually, I know a little, I replied. I heard you too at the last cookout. 3 cards almost maxed. Car payment. Short 10 grand for closing. So, mom has to rate her retirement again. I didn't go digging. You were just loud. My mom's eyes widened and she glanced at Vanessa, guilt and panic flickering across her face. That is none of your business, Vanessa spit out. You're spying now? Eavesdropping? That's pathetic. I shook my head, feeling a strange calm settle over me. What's pathetic is mom telling me over and over that she couldn't help me with a security deposit because I needed to stand on my own 2 feet, and then lighting herself on fire financially to keep your image intact. I've been standing on my own 2 feet for years. You're standing on her bank account. My aunt shifted uncomfortably. My uncle cleared his throat. Someone muttered, wow. My mom's voice went tight. Claire, that's enough. You are ruining Christmas. No, Mom, I said quietly, you ruined Christmas the moment you decided to use it as a stage to humiliate me while praising Vanessa. I'm just finally answering back. There was a long, heavy pause. Vanessa leaned forward, eyes narrowed. So, you think you're better than me now, she said. Because you have some lake house and a job with a fancy title? I met her stare. No, I don't think I'm better than you, I said. I think I stopped playing a game that was rigged from the start. That's all. I pushed my chair back. The legs scraped against the floor louder than I intended, but I didn't apologize. I reached for my bag and stood up. Where are you going? My mom demanded. We're not done talking about this. I think we are, I said. You made it clear a long time ago whose side you were on. Tonight, I just made it clear I'm finally on my own side. For a second, nobody moved. Then Mia stood up too, almost like an instinct. I'll walk you out, she said. We crossed the room in front of a dozen stunned faces and stepped out into the cold night air. As the door closed behind us, the noise of the house muffled, my heart finally slowed. I could feel the shock I had left in that dining room, the cracks that had just formed in the story my family had been telling themselves for years. And as I walked down the driveway toward my car, keys in hand, one thought settled in my chest like something solid and permanent. For the first time in my life, I had not just survived a family holiday. I had changed it. 3 weeks after that Christmas dinner, the group chat was still quieter than it had ever been. No more all-caps messages from my mom about Vanessa's amazing new curtains or how perfect her neighborhood was. Instead, there were long gaps, random forwarded memes from relatives trying to pretend nothing had happened, and the occasional awkward question from someone asking if I was doing okay. The only person who texted me like normal was Mia. She sent me a message one night that said, you know, they're still talking about you, right? The way you smiled when you dropped that lake house bomb. You're basically family legend now. I was sitting at my kitchen table when I read it, laptop open, my cat curled up on the chair beside me. I looked around at my home, the one nobody believed I could have, and felt something I hadn't felt in a long time around the word family, peace. A few days later, I invited Mia and her parents, my Aunt Donna and uncle, to come out to the lake for the weekend. They showed up with too many snacks and not enough jackets, complaining about the cold and marveling at the view. We cooked together, walked along the water, played board games at my dining table. At one point, Donna stood by the window watching the lake and said quietly, "I'm sorry, Claire. I should have spoken up sooner." I shrugged, not out of disrespect, but because I was tired of carrying everyone else's regret. "You see it now," I said. "That's what matters." As winter turned into spring, news about Vanessa and my mom reached me in pieces, mostly through Mia. The credit card balances Vanessa had been juggling finally tipped over into unmanageable. The promotion she had been counting on didn't happen. Her performance at work slipped under the weight of missed payments, phone calls from collectors, constant stress. A few months after Christmas, her company did layoffs and she was one of the first to go. Without that steady paycheck, the house that had been my mom's favorite bragging point became a burden. They tried to keep up with the mortgage for a while, but the numbers just didn't work. Eventually, Vanessa put the house on the market. The dream home that had earned her a standing ovation in the backyard was sold to pay back some of the debt she had racked up trying to look successful. My mom, Linda, called me over and over once things started falling apart. At first, the voicemails were angry. "How could you embarrass your sister like that?" Then they turned into pleading. "We're still family. Your sister needs help. You have money now. You could loan her some just until she gets back on her feet." And buried in all of that finally were a few words I had thought I would never hear. "I'm sorry. I didn't realize how much I hurt you." I listened to them. Every single one, sitting on my porch with the lake in front of me. And I realized something important. An apology doesn't erase the years you spent shrinking yourself to fit inside someone else's story. It doesn't obligate you to walk back into a role that nearly broke you. So I called her one last time. I told her, "Mom, I'm glad you're starting to see what happened. I really am, but I spent my whole life being the one you overlooked, the one you expected to sacrifice so someone else could shine. I'm not doing that anymore. I'm not going to fix problems created by choices I didn't make. I love you, but I am done." Then I set boundaries I never thought I would have the courage to set. Fewer calls, no more financial conversations, no more guilt trips about Vanessa. When those lines were ignored, I did what I had to do. I blocked numbers. I muted chats. I chose my own peace over their version of loyalty. I poured that energy into my work, my friendships, and something new. I started volunteering at a local women's center, helping women who felt trapped by family expectations or financial dependence figure out small, practical ways to build freedom, budgets, resumes, basic marketing skills for side hustles. Sitting across from them, hearing their stories, I recognized pieces of my own. The ignored daughter, the responsible one, the one everyone assumes will be fine. So no one ever asks if she is actually okay. If there is any lesson in what happened to me, it is this: being the invisible child does not mean you are powerless. Sometimes it means you are the one quietly building a life strong enough to walk away. Parents can play favorites. Siblings can soak up all the attention. But at the end of the day, the only person who truly lives with the consequences of your choices is you. You are allowed to draw lines. You are allowed to say no, even to family. You are allowed to build something they never saw coming and keep it safe from the people who doubted you. If you grew up feeling like the background character in your own home, I hope my story reminds you that you don't have to stay there. You can choose yourself, even if it makes other people uncomfortable. And if you've ever had to break your own heart by stepping away from a family that wouldn't see your worth, you are not alone. There's a quiet kind of strength in building a life that doesn't need applause, in finding peace in your own company, in realizing that the people who doubted you were never the ones who got to decide your value. Sometimes, the hardest thing you'll ever do is walk away from the people you thought you needed most. But sometimes, that's the only way to become the person you were meant to be. I used to think that family was about unconditional love, about always showing up, about sacrificing for each other no matter what. But real love doesn't ask you to disappear. Real love doesn't demand that you shrink so someone else can shine. Real love celebrates you, even when you're different, even when your path doesn't look like theirs. I don't know what the future holds for my family. Maybe one day, my mom and I will find a way to talk without old wounds bleeding into every conversation. Maybe Vanessa will learn that being the center of attention isn't the same as being truly seen. Or maybe not. What I do know is that I'm done living my life for someone else's approval. I'm done waiting for a seat at a table that was never set for me. I have my own table now, in a house I bought with my own hard work, surrounded by people who see me for who I am, not who they wish I would be. If you're watching this and you've ever felt invisible, I want you to know, you are not alone. Your story matters, even if the people closest to you never bother to listen. You are allowed to want more. You are allowed to build a life that makes sense to you, even if it doesn't make sense to anyone else. And you are allowed to protect your peace, even if it means disappointing people who never really saw you in the first place. Thank you for listening to my story. If it resonated with you, if you've ever felt like the invisible one, or if you're still fighting to be seen, I'd love to hear your story in the comments. Let's build a community where we lift each other up, where we celebrate the quiet victories, the hard-won boundaries, the moments of courage it takes to choose yourself. If you found value in this video, please give it a thumbs up. It helps more people find stories like ours. And if you want to hear more real stories about overcoming family expectations, building your own path, and finding your voice, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss the next one. Remember, you are not alone, and you are more than enough, exactly as you are.